Hey, what's going on? It's Matt Polis, and I am back for another episode of MeatSauce. This is episode number 26. Welcome back. Thank you for joining me. I want to start this episode off with letting you know that I'm recording this on Saturday night, April the 24th, so not the typical Tuesday that it once was. I'm not sure when this is going to come out, potentially Sunday or Monday, maybe even tonight. I don't know. I know I've been radio silent the past couple weeks. Honestly, unintentional. My life has been kind of on a bit of a roller coaster during the month of April. I won't bore you too much with the details because there's just kind of a lot, and some of it I want to keep to myself. And so long story short, I was called back to work a couple of weeks ago, which is going really great. It feels really good to be back. So I've been, for the most part, just readapting to kind of what my normal routine was, pre-pandemic. So I haven't had a chance really to sit down and kind of map out the schedule for this podcast and when I'm going to record and release episodes, because when I wasn't working, it was obviously a lot easier to just wake up and record and release it, and there's just more things going on now. So I hope you are doing well. I am really excited to kind of get back on here. I was thinking today, I was like, man, I just need to I was having that hankering to get back on and record, because I feel like there's just been, so much to talk about, and I wanted to, reconnect again, since again, it has been a couple of weeks. So I am back this week to give a little update on me personally, as well as some sports news, including the Reds and the Browns. So thank you again for tuning in. Really excited to be back. If you were really curious about my bourbon journey, don't worry, it's still going strong. Over the last few weeks, I've purchased a few more bottles. I got a bottle of Old Forester 1910, which is really, really good. It's gotten better each time I've gone back to it. A Knob Creek 9-year bourbon, which it was my first Knob Creek. I've always been super hesitant to buy Knob Creek because it is Jim Beam, and I'm not sure how I feel about the Jim Beam kind of nutty profile that it puts off, but I actually really, really like the Knob Creek. And then this past Friday night, so last night, I found a bottle of Henry McKenna 10-year bottled in bond at my local liquor store. I was blown away when I found this bottle. I was not expecting to see it at all. I've never seen one in Michigan. And granted, me shopping for bourbon is still relatively new in the overall picture, but I never even expected to see one. I expected to have to get it out of state, have somebody buy one for me and ship it to me. So it was awesome to be able to see that bottle last night in person. So of course I had to pick one of those up. This bottle used to be readily available, not super expensive at all, and it won like best bourbon at like the San Francisco Spirits competition a few years ago, and ever since then it's been highly allocated, hard to find. The price got jacked up, so I was really, really happy to be able to find that, and can't wait to crack it open and give it a try. And then my mom also found me a bottle of Cooper's Craft bourbon down in Ohio that I'm really excited to try. There's been a lot of buzz in the bourbon community about that being a great kind of daily drinker. So shout out to my mom, who also just celebrated her birthday yesterday, for finding that bottle for me. I can't wait to try it. All right, let's see what else has been going on. Let's see. On the backpacking front, Jess and I have a big trip planned soon as a way to celebrate our upcoming 3-year anniversary next month. We are heading to the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore and doing the Lakeshore Trail, which is 42 miles along Lake Superior in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It's part of the North Country Trail, which that runs about 4,600 miles from the Dakotas, and it winds its way all the way through Michigan, through Ohio, over to Pennsylvania, and up through New York. So it'll be cool to do obviously a very, very small sliver of that trail, through the Lakeshore Trail. So I'm super excited for that. This will definitely be the most mileage we've ever done, and also the most nights we have camped out consecutively. So, and this will also be my first time in the UP since I've lived in Michigan. I've lived in Michigan for, it'll be 7 years in September. So this will be my first time in the Upper Peninsula seeing Pictured Rocks, which, if you don't really know what I'm talking about, do a quick Google search of the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. It is a beautiful area, and I really can't wait to do some backpacking there and just getting out again and enjoying nature, and what a better way to do it than in one of the most beautiful places in the country. So really, really looking forward to that. Let's get into a little bit of sports updates, what's been going on. Kind of quiet from a lot of aspects. Football, we have the NFL draft coming up this next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday live from Cleveland, Ohio, which is really awesome to see the draft embrace the city of Cleveland. I think I saw there's going to be like 50,000 people expected to attend. So this is really the first Browns draft in a long time where we don't really have a laundry list of needs. Last year there was a list and they went in and basically checked every box that they needed. This year I feel like the list is actually even shorter. I would really like to see them pick up a speedy wide receiver, somebody that can stretch the field. I know, they'll still have Jarvis Landry, OBJ for now, still kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with that. Kadero Hodge, Rashard Higgins, and Donovan Peoples-Jones. But I would like to see them add another wide receiver from the draft. If they do that, I don't know what that means for OBJ. Does he get traded? I just feel like you need that depth because people get hurt. You need that depth, and I'm not sure what will happen with OBJ if we draft a wide receiver, especially if we draft one kind of high. I don't really know how I feel about OBJ. Whether or not he is with the Browns, I think I'm kind of okay either way, whatever they decide to do with that. So I would like to see them pick up some more depth either at the defensive tackle position or at the cornerback position, maybe even a linebacker too. But really there's hardly any holes on the roster right now. So it's a really good place to be. But I think if the Browns can pick up some depth at various positions, I think it will be a successful draft for them. So I do think with the number 26 overall pick that they have on Thursday night, I think it will definitely be a defensive player. It's either going to be a defensive tackle, linebacker, or corner. I could see it being a defensive tackle because cutting Sheldon Richardson and losing Larry Ogunjobi to free agency. I know they filled that with some free agents, but I still feel like if there's a top guy there at number 26, I could see them going defensive tackle. The linebacker position, I know they brought in Anthony Walker from the Colts, which is awesome, but I could see them wanting to add some more depth there too because we really don't know much about Taki just yet, and Mac Wilson, and so I think there's still some question marks in the linebacking core, so maybe they can shore that up at the number 26 spot. So either way, really, really looking forward to the Browns draft, as I am always. It'll be really fun that it's in Cleveland. I am really interested to see how the first 10 picks or so of the draft turn out. I feel like there's definitely a trade that's going to happen on draft night that no one really expected to see happen. I don't know what it's going to be. It may not happen at all. I'm not, usually right, but it just has that feeling because there's so much uncertainty with the quarterbacks, who's going to take who, what are the Bengals going to do at the number 5 spot? It's just, I feel like there could be a lot of things happening, so obviously Trevor Lawrence is going number 1 to Jacksonville. The whole world would probably shut down if he did not get drafted at the number 1 spot. I feel like Zach Wilson will end up going to the Jets at number 2. And then really from what I've heard, read, seen, it looks like Mac Jones is probably going to get taken number 3 to San Francisco. Unfortunately, the feeling I have gotten over the last few weeks too with Justin Fields that he's going to drop in the draft. I've seen some mock drafts to where he may not drop that far. He may go to number 4 to the Falcons, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see with Justin Fields. I don't know. I blame some of the media, for kind of tarnishing his reputation heading into this draft. Stuff about him not being a great locker room guy, not getting to know his teammates, only caring about him winning the starting job. I just think it's been unfair to this kid who's trying to make it into the NFL. And I know these NFL teams have like big decisions to make, and it's like there's a lot on the line, and they have to get these picks right. But I mean, Justin Fields is so freaking good. Like, he is phenomenal, and he showed his leadership this past year at Ohio State. So hopefully that helps him out. He's going to get drafted. It's just a matter of how far is he going to drop, or is he still going to be in that top kind of 5 conversation there. I am curious to see who the Bengals will take at number 5 overall. I felt like for a while it was guaranteed the offensive tackle Penei Sewell, and over the last several weeks it's been more and more looking like potentially Jamar Chase, the wide receiver from LSU, the former teammate of Joe Burrow, or the versatile tight end Kyle Pitts out of Florida. His pro day, he looked like an absolute beast, and I feel like the Bengals could kind of use that kind of tight end because that's kind of where the league is heading. If you look at people like Travis Kelce, and you could even throw David Njoku in there, and George Kittle. Not to say Njoku's on the level of Travis Kelce and George Kittle, but that kind of ability to receive and be a threat downfield. So I could see that fitting really well with the Bengals. I don't really see them taking the offensive tackle in that number 5 slot, just because of what I've heard about how deep this draft is with offensive tackles, that they could go in the first round, get their playmaker, and then grab an offensive tackle in the second round. But I could be 100% wrong. I don't want them to be successful at all. So whatever they can do to screw it up, I'm down for that. But either way, I cannot wait to watch the draft. It's one of my favorite things to watch. It's super cool that it's going to be live from Cleveland. So really can't wait for that next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. All right, let's get into some Reds updates from the past couple weeks. I feel like I could talk about all of this for a really long time. As I was kind of prepping for what I wanted to talk about, there's just been, I feel like, so much that has happened over the last couple weeks with the Reds, as far as who they are as a team, what their identity is, what's going to happen. It's been a roller coaster as a fan to watch this team. For how hot they started off this season, it has just been such a head scratcher. At least the one thing I can say is the offense, for the most part, has been relatively consistent. I mean, we have to be honest with ourselves. No team is going to put up big numbers every night, all season long. It's just not realistic. It's not baseball. Because you're playing night in and night out, there's going to be nights where the whole lineup struggles. Or there's going to be nights where the whole lineup is on fire, or it just takes 1 or 2 guys carrying the load. It really just depends. I think from what I have seen, they've been consistent. They've been good, but they've also been bad, but they've kind of hung around right in the middle there, and they're scoring runs. I think that's what we all as fans expect that lineup with those names there. We expect them to score runs. So that has been good to see. I think Jesse Winker has cemented himself at the top of the lineup, leadoff guy. He brings the total package of power, contact, hustle, getting on base. He's brought that to that leadoff spot, and I love watching him play. He seems like he's having fun. He's like, I don't know, he's turned his game up to another level, and you can just see it like as he's playing. You just watch him. He's having fun. He's laughing. He's goofing around. But then there's also that flip of the switch for him that is really, really impressive. And I don't think the Reds have had this kind of combination of a leadoff hitter since probably Shin-Soo Choo several years ago at this point. So I really like Jesse Winker in that leadoff role. And he's kind of taken ownership. He's like, basically like, I dare you to take me out of this leadoff spot. Like, I'm going to keep hitting homers. I'm going to keep getting on base. I'm going to keep hustling. So I'm really, really liking what I'm seeing from Jesse Winker this season. Castellanos, obviously has been off to a great start as well. He goes through his dips, but his dips, I feel like compared to most hitters, his dips are very short. Like he's climbing this mountain and then he's got a little bit of a dip and then he starts climbing another mountain very, very quickly. So doesn't ever seem to be in a rut for very long. So that's good, especially in that number 2 spot. And I think Votto, everyone has their own opinions on Joey Votto. I think he's been coming around as of late. At the beginning of the season, I mean, the season's still very, very new, but he's been hitting the ball really, really hard. He had some of the highest bat velocities on the whole team. It's a lot of like 110 miles an hour off the bat and even higher than that. And they just ended up being hit right at the defender. So it's like you don't want him to change that. You want him to keep approaching the ball that's every at bat that same way, and you have to just hope at some point those balls are going to start to drop in or be hit where people aren't. So he's getting a lot more solid base hits now, hitting some home runs. And he's definitely, if you watch him, he's definitely looking for that first pitch over the plate. Like he's going to swing no matter what. It could be a breaking ball or a fastball, but if it's the first pitch and it's within the zone, Votto, he's been swinging almost every time, it seems like. The rookie sensation, Jonathan India, he's cooled off a little bit. I think we all knew he was going to cool off at some point, compared to his hot start. I think he still, can be that second baseman for a long, long time, as long as he can offensively continue to produce. So I think, as we see with so many young players, they come up and kind of take the league by storm for a little while, and then you start seeing opposing pitchers start to make adjustments to him, and they watch tape and they understand like where they can start to pick at him a little bit more. And they clearly have, he's cooled off quite a bit, so they've made adjustment on him. Now it's India's turn. And this is where a lot of young players, I think, struggle to stay in the majors, is that once pitchers make an adjustment to them, they struggle a lot to make that next adjustment to put it back on the opposing pitchers. So that's where Jonathan India is right now. He's got to adjust to what the adjustment was to him. That's a tongue twister. And he's got to put the ball back, so to speak, in the pitcher's hands to then make the next adjustment, because he has, but it hasn't been as frequent yet with his success since they kind of started pitching him a little bit differently. I've been really, really happy so far with Tucker Barnhart this season. I was coming into this year, I was not really feeling Tucker Barnhart anymore, and I think it's kind of unfair to him. His defense speaks for itself. It's fantastic. I get really bogged down by his lack of offense, but you can tell there's a different approach for him this year at the plate, and I feel like he has shortened up his swing a little bit. You can tell when he swings and misses, you see how long and how wide that swing is. Once he shrinks that bat a little bit as far as how much like ground he's covering when he swings, I feel like he is able to get base hits like a lot easier, or his home runs come more often. So I've been impressed with his offensive approach this year. Hopefully he can keep it up, because that was my biggest gripe with him, is just offensively doesn't really produce, just has a big overarching swing that just like takes up way too much time and space, and he's usually late on fastballs and stuff like that. So that brings me to, speaking of slow, long swings, that brings me to Eugenio Suarez. He has clearly been the Red that is struggling the most so far this season. He has been ice cold basically all season. I know he's hit a couple homers. He hit one the other day, but he has just struck out so much. His swing just looks so long and slow, and he is just kind of swinging at everything. And he seems behind on just about every fastball. Like every fastball he's thrown, he's swinging, and it just feels late. So I don't know if he's not seeing the ball out of people's hands. I don't know if he's like guessing wrong on which pitch it's going to be. But he's such a free swinger anyways, and usually your power hitters are more of those free swingers. but he just seems so desperate at the plate and is swinging at anything and just about everything. And it's hard to watch because then you watch him take something right down the middle, but you'll watch him swing at 3 outside or 2 in the dirt or whatever, and then he'll just watch something go right down the middle. So I don't really know what's up with him. I know at some point he's going to turn it around and will be a hot bat in the lineup again. I just don't know how much longer the team can afford to have him in that 3 or 4 spot in the lineup. It's not helping anything. They really need Mike Moustakas back. And I think once you do, you could slide Suarez potentially down into that 5 hole and bat Moustakas 4th. So I think that could help Suarez just, again, take some pressure off of him. Or, I don't know. Now that I'm sitting here, it's like, well, keep Suarez 4th and put Moose 5th like it kind of normally is. And just having the presence of Moose, pitchers might pitch Suarez a little bit differently because they don't want, because they have that threat of Mike Moustakas behind him. Right now, there's not really that threat, and so they can just go right after Suarez and get him out, because they don't have to worry about the next person. But with Moustakas back, I think that might change the pitching approach a little bit. So maybe that would help. I'm not sure. Looks like Moose might be back during this upcoming Dodgers series. He's been dealing with like a viral infection. He was talking about how it's caused him some like really bad dizziness, and he said it's been really tough to deal with. So hopefully he's back this week, ready to go. Overall, offensively for the Reds, I've really enjoyed watching their approach this season. Again, they're not going to go out and score 10 runs every night, put together double-digit hits, but what you can take away is from each at-bat, they're seeing pitches, they're being aggressive when they need to be. I've enjoyed their offensive approach thus far. When you compare it to last year, I'm really, really am happy with just the overall approach of the ball club. There's confidence there on the offensive side. And I hope that they can keep it up as a collective. I hope they continue to pick each other up. When one guy's ice cold like Suarez, you've got another guy in Jesse Winker who's carrying the load, or Nick Castellanos. There's enough guys who can put the team on their backs, and I hope that continues. And then not to mention Shogo Akiyama, he hasn't even come back yet. I think he could provide a bit of a spark too in that lineup. Just with getting on base, just with being a base hitter. I don't think he should replace Winker in the leadoff spot at all. Like, I think Winker is the leadoff guy until he shows us that he is not the leadoff guy. I think he has earned that right at this point. But you could bat, Akiyama in that 6th spot, and it gives you another almost type of leadoff guy right in the middle of the lineup. A guy that gets on base a lot, has some speed. So obviously, he's going to share his time with Nick Senzel, out in center field. So hopefully, having him back at some point here will help things a lot. From the starting pitching perspective, it's been off and on. I think overall, it's been pretty decent so far. Wade Miley and Tyler Mahle have really been the 2 bright spots. I think Sonny Gray is still trying to find his stride as he missed a good portion of spring training with back spasms and all that. So I think it's going to take him a little bit to kind of get into the swing of things here. But Miley has been a workhorse. Tyler Mahle has really cemented himself in this rotation. He was phenomenal the other day against the Diamondbacks. By the way, I'm so glad we're done playing Arizona. Holy cow, that was 2 series of just frustration. I'm so glad that we're done playing the Diamondbacks for the year. Luis Castillo, he has been struggling. His stuff just hasn't really been there so far this year. I know he's pitched in a couple games now that the weather isn't ideal, but I could see the excuse of that on the opening day when it was like really cold, but I can't use that excuse all the time when it's cold. He's got to be able to fight through that. He just hasn't been the same, hasn't had the same stuff, or he just hasn't, or hitters are just used to him and he hasn't made that adjustment yet. So I'm sure he's going to figure it out. Again, it's just how long is it going to take some of these guys who are normally at the top of their game? How long is it going to take them to get back to the top of their game? Because the Reds, we can't wait, because this season could slip away very quickly. I think Jeff Hoffman has been a decent addition. I know he didn't have a great outing the last time against the Diamondbacks, but he has been a good addition for sure overall. And then lastly, and certainly leastly, this bullpen has been absolutely atrocious. I don't really know who to blame. I know the last time I was on here, I was actually praising. I thought there was way more depth in this bullpen than I thought. And I don't really know who to blame at this point. I mean, the only guy I can think of is Bob Castellini, the owner. Like, it feels like, and I don't know obviously, none of us really know the backstory, but it felt like it came across as he forced these salary dumps of Raisel Iglesias and Archie Bradley, and now we're just kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place with having to have enough arms in the bullpen that can throw strikes. I mentioned here, I think the last time I was on, was that you have Amir Garrett and Lucas Sims moving into that back end of the bullpen, being those two kind of 8th, 9th inning guys. So you need two guys to fill the spots that they used to occupy, and they just don't really have that. I thought they may have had that in Carson Fulmer. He's kind of been struggling. TJ Antone has been lights out, unreal, but in that middle relief role, but he can't pitch 3 to 4 innings every night. Like, that's not possible, so you need guys who can throw strikes and get people out, and they just don't seem to have that right now. It's like the bullpen started off really strong, and I thought there was more depth, like I said, than I realized, but as we go here, they've struggled to throw strikes, and then when they do, teams have adjusted and are just mashing the ball off of them, and they're giving up a ton of runs. Obviously Amir Garrett has looked just really, really bad. Like, can't get the ball over the plate. It looks like to me, I'm no pitching expert, but just watching and knowing baseball, it looks like he's just releasing his throws too early or too high in his delivery. Every single pitch I watched of the last outing I saw of his, which was against the Diamondbacks. Every single pitch was in the left-hander's batter's box. Every single one. Not one fastball made it to the other side of the plate. Why isn't he able to adjust that on the fly? Like, he shouldn't need a coach to tell him, hey, you're releasing too early or too high in your release point. You got to follow through more and get that ball more over the plate, or even miss on the complete opposite side. Like, try something to where you go way overcorrect, and that way you can understand both like polar opposites ends of the spectrum, and then find something there right in the happy medium that makes it work. I just don't know why he doesn't seem to be able to do that himself or notice what he's doing. And maybe he does, but like, it just takes time to fix. Like, I don't really know. I'm sure, like some of the other guys on the team, I'm sure he's going to get it figured out, but right now it is tough to watch. And I think also too, and maybe this is just my opinion, but he has also, I think, hyped up and really, like, the broadcast team and that sort of thing has kind of hyped up this AG persona, I think, too much. Like, to where he looks so jittery on the mound, he's so hyped up, and he's, he wants to strike somebody out so he can do like the baby cradling thing. Like, to me, just settle down and pitch. We don't need the animated AG if he can't get the ball over the plate. It does us no good. Like, settle down, be Amir Garrett, and get the ball over the plate more often. And then once you start doing that, then AG can start making his way back out onto the field. But it just feels so forced that he's like built this persona, through the media and all of this. And now it's like, you can't get the ball over the plate. It's crazy. So I'm sure he's going to get it figured out. It just, how long until he does. So, and then hopefully the Reds can get Michael Lorenzen back here sometime soon in the not too distant future. I think obviously the pitching staff could really use his arm back either in the rotation or the bullpen. I think obviously right now, when he comes back, he'd probably need to be in the bullpen, especially because they're just such a struggle bus right now, and maybe even some overuse in some areas that where he could come in and kind of be that savior, if you will. But I have to keep trusting that the pitching will get itself figured out, hopefully sooner rather than later. If the offense can stay somewhat consistent, this team may be okay, but I don't know about you, if you're a Reds fan listening to this, but it definitely feels like this season can easily slip away from us fans really, really quickly. Let's hope it doesn't do that. They started off so hot this season and have struggled mightily over the last couple weeks here. So, and this team just has too much talent to not be competitively successful. There's too much like up and down the lineup throughout the pitching staff. Like there's so much talent, and I guess time will tell, what's going to happen here. But it's a long season. A lot can happen. They can go on another hot streak, but they got to get out of this rut that they're on currently for sure. All right, I think that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for joining me on this kind of spur-of-the-moment life update kind of episode. I'm not sure yet on the consistency of recording episodes, but it may be kind of sporadic for the foreseeable future. It feels good to be back and get caught up on things happening either personally, professionally, or with the Reds or Browns or anything going on in the sports world. So thanks again for tuning in, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.